I've been in markets for over 40 years. I've seen manias. I've seen crashes. I've seen moments where the crowd is so loud and so wrong that the opportunity is almost embarrassing. And right now, quietly, something is happening in defense and government technology that reminds me of a few very specific moments in my career where the smart money was moving before anyone was paying attention. There's a company, you probably know the name, but I'd bet most of you don't know what's actually happening around it right now. 6 sitting members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, people who agree on absolutely nothing, are all buying the same stock. The President of the United States personally holds over $1 million of it. The CEO just put $3 million of his own money into it and canceled his automatic stock selling plan. And the stock itself has been cut nearly in half. That combination of signals doesn't happen often. When it does, I pay attention. I've learned the hard way that ignoring it is the expensive mistake. The company is ServiceNow, ticker NOW. And I want to walk you through why I think Wall Street has this almost completely wrong, what the actual opportunity is, and just as importantly, where I could be wrong, because that matters too. Let me start with the politicians, because that's what initially caught my eye on this one, and I want to be straight with you about what I think is going on there. Byron Donalds is a Republican from Florida. He sits on the Financial Services Committee, specifically the Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence. He oversees AI regulation. He's buying ServiceNow. Tony Weed, Republican from Wisconsin, chairs the Subcommittee on Contracting and Infrastructure. He oversees government technology contracts. ServiceNow just signed a massive deal with the federal government. He's buying Rokana, Democrat from California, sits on the Armed Services Committee, the Cyber and Innovation Subcommittee, and the Select Committee on Strategic Competition with China. He oversees cybersecurity and government IT spending. He's buying, and his investment portfolio, since we've had data on it, has beaten the S&P 500 by 112%. People talk about Nancy Pelosi like she's the trading genius of Congress. With respect, she's done about a third of what Kane has done. The man bought a little company called SanDisk at the right time, and it went up 3,000%. Now he's in ServiceNow. Then there's Chuck Fleischman, Republican from Tennessee, sitting on the Appropriations Committee, which is where the real power lives because that's the committee that holds the government's checkbook. He chairs the Energy and Water Development Subcommittee and sits on Defense Appropriations. Josh Gottheimer, Democrat from New Jersey, sits on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and is ranking member of the NSA and Cyber Subcommittee. The man has top secret clearance. And finally, Michael McCall, Republican from Texas, who didn't just join the Technology Committee, he founded it. He created the Congressional High-Tech Caucus. He co-chairs the Congressional Cybersecurity Caucus. Now I'm going to say very clearly what I always say about congressional trading. These people are not doing this for your benefit. They're doing it for theirs. I'm not here to moralize about it. What I am here to tell you is that when 6 members of Congress who sit on the committees that oversee AI contracts, government technology spending, and cybersecurity are all quietly accumulating the same stock, that is a data point I am not going to ignore. You can disagree with me, but I've spent 4 decades watching where the informed money goes, and this is what it looks like. And then the deal, the GSA, the General Services Administration, which is essentially the purchasing department for the entire federal government, signed a deal giving federal agencies a 70% discount on ServiceNow's AI platform. The GSA has driven over $60 billion in contract savings using platforms like ServiceNow since last year. The administration that signed that deal, the president personally holds over $1 million of ServiceNow stock. I'm not saying that's how it should work. I'm saying that's what happened, and it's another data point. Now let me tell you what ServiceNow actually does, because I think a lot of people misunderstand it, and that misunderstanding is a big part of why the stock is where it is. Think about a large organization, a hospital, a bank, a government agency, thousands of employees, hundreds of departments. Every single day, there are thousands of small tasks moving around. Someone needs a new laptop approved, a customer has a complaint, a new hire needs access to 12 different systems, An invoice needs 4 signatures before it can be paid. All of that needs to go somewhere. Someone has to assign it, track it, make sure it gets done, escalate it if it doesn't. Most big organizations, if you pulled out the system handling all of that, would grind to a halt within hours. That system, for 85% of Fortune 500 companies, is ServiceNow. It's not glamorous. It's not the thing you see in a Super Bowl ad. It's the nervous system of the enterprise, the thing that connects the brain to the rest of the body. And the thing about nervous systems is that you don't rip them out. You can't. It's too painful, too expensive, too disruptive. 98% of ServiceNow's customers renew every year. In software, that is an extraordinary number. I've looked at a lot of businesses over my career, and very few have that kind of customer retention. Once you're in, you're in. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because the stock is down 56% from its highs, and there's a reason for that. Wall Street has a story about ServiceNow, and the story goes like this. AI is going to eliminate workers. Fewer workers means fewer software licenses. Fewer licenses means ServiceNow loses most of its revenue. They've given this story a name. They call it the SaaS apocalypse. Software as a service companies, the theory goes, are going to get hollowed out because the product they sell, licenses tied to the number of human employees, loses its market as AI replaces those humans. And I'll be honest with you, the first time I heard that argument, I thought it had a surface logic to it. Simple math. 10 employees need 10 licenses. 1 employee needs 1 license. ServiceNow loses 90% of its revenue. It's neat. It's also, I believe, almost completely wrong. Here's why. AI doesn't replace ServiceNow. AI needs ServiceNow. Think about what an AI agent actually requires to do anything useful inside a large organization. It needs to know what tasks exist. It needs to know who has authority to approve what. It needs to be able to file its work, escalate problems, and connect to dozens of other systems. ServiceNow already has all of that mapped out for 85% of the Fortune 500. An AI agent without that infrastructure is genuinely like a brain in a jar. Brilliant, maybe, but completely unable to do anything. The CEO of ServiceNow put it almost exactly that way. AI without a workflow platform, he said, is a brain without a body. And they didn't just say that. They built the product in OWL. ServiceNow launched an AI product called Now Assist. It went from 0 revenue to $750 million in contract value. They're targeting $1.5 billion by the end of this year. Their core product took 20 years to reach that kind of scale. The AI product is growing at a speed I haven't seen often, but the really clever part, and this is the piece I think most people are missing, is how they changed their pricing model. ServiceNow is moving away from charging per seat, which is the model that Wall Street is afraid AI will kill. Instead, they're moving to a consumption model. You pay based on how much AI work you actually use, not how many humans are doing it. Half of their new contracts are already on this model. Think about what that means. If a company replaces 10 human workers with AI agents that are each doing 10 times the work, ServiceNow doesn't lose revenue. ServiceNow earns more revenue because those agents are running more workflows, consuming more of the platform. The thing Wall Street thinks is the threat is actually the engine of their next growth cycle. Now let's look at the numbers, because I've always believed that the story has to match the numbers or the story is wrong. Revenue is growing at 22%. They have $2.7 billion in cash. They generated $1.5 billion in cash last quarter just sitting in their account. They have over 630 customers spending more than $5 million a year on the platform. R&D spending is rising, which matters because when a company is investing in building something new while still generating cash, that's usually a sign they're setting up the next phase of growth rather than protecting a dying one. The valuation is where it gets genuinely interesting to me. A year ago, this stock traded at over 100 times earnings. That's an expensive stock. At 56% off those highs, it now trades at roughly 60 times trailing earnings, which still sounds like a lot. But on a forward basis, meaning what analysts expect the company to earn next year, It's trading at about 15 times for a company growing revenue at 22%, with 98% customer retention, a new AI product going from zero to $750 million in contract value, and a consumption-based pricing model that benefits from AI adoption rather than suffering from it. 15 times forward earnings is not expensive. Microsoft, which is growing slower, trades at a higher multiple, and then the buyback. ServiceNow announced they're buying back $5 billion of their own stock. That destroys shares, which means each remaining share becomes a larger piece of the company. Combined with the CEO buying $3 million of stock personally and canceling his automatic selling plan, and 4 other executives doing the same thing, you have a picture of insiders who believe the stock is meaningfully undervalued. I want to say something about insider buying because I think people misread it. Insiders sell stock for all kinds of reasons. They need liquidity. They want to diversify. They're buying a house. A CEO selling stock tells you almost nothing. But when a CEO stops a scheduled selling plan and starts buying with his own personal cash, that's a much louder signal. He's not diversifying. He's concentrating. He's making a bet with real money that the stock is going to be higher. You don't do that unless you believe it deeply. Now I want to spend some time on the risks, because I've been around long enough to know that the most dangerous thing you can do with an investment thesis is fall in love with it and stop seeing the holes. The first risk is that Wall Street might not be entirely wrong about the SaaS pressure. The consumption model is smart, but it's a transition. During transitions, revenue can be lumpy, margins can compress, and the market can stay pessimistic for longer than you expect. ServiceNow is betting that consumption-based revenue will more than offset any losses from seat-based pricing. That bet could be right. It could also take longer to play out than anyone expects, and in markets, timing matters. The second risk is execution. Moving from one pricing model to another across hundreds of enterprise contracts is genuinely difficult. Enterprise sales cycles are slow, customers are conservative, and if ServiceNow stumbles on that transition, even temporarily, the stock could go lower before it goes higher. A 56% drawdown is painful. Another 20% from here is possible, and you need to be prepared for that if you're going to own the stock. The third risk is competition. Microsoft has Copilot. Salesforce has Agentforce. ServiceNow's moat is real. The sticky, embedded workflow infrastructure is genuinely hard to replace, but the AI layer on top is less differentiated. If Microsoft or Salesforce figures out how to route AI workflows through their own platforms instead of ServiceNow's, the story changes. The fourth risk is the government. The GSA deal sounds great. Government contracts always sound great. They're also slow to implement, subject to budget fights, and occasionally get canceled or renegotiated. A 70% discount is a low-margin deal, even if it's high volume. Whether that translates into the kind of revenue growth the bulls expect is genuinely uncertain. I'm not telling you any of that to scare you off. I'm telling you because that's how I've always approached every position I've ever taken. You have to know specifically how you're wrong before you put capital at risk. Vague disclaimers are useless. It might go down is not a risk assessment. Knowing that the consumption model transition could compress margins for 2 to 3 quarters while the market stays bearish, that's a risk assessment you can actually manage around. There's a tool I use for this kind of research, and I want to mention it because it's genuinely been useful in how I think about stocks like this. It's called the Winston app, and what it does is give you a structured framework for evaluating companies' quality, growth, cash flow, stability, valuation in a way that mirrors how professional analysts actually look at businesses rather than the noise you get from most retail platforms. There's a free trial, 30-day money-back guarantee, 0 risk to try it. I mention it because when I was looking at ServiceNow's financials, specifically how their profit growth dipped to 2% last quarter while revenue stayed strong, having a tool that shows you the rate of change in those numbers rather than just the absolute figures makes a real difference in how you interpret what's happening. The link is below, worth at least a week of your time to see if it changes how you look at stocks. Now, where does that leave me on ServiceNow specifically? I think this is a genuinely interesting opportunity. The insider buying is real. The government deal is real. The AI product going from 0 to 750 million is real. The consumption model shift is smart and structurally correct. The valuation at 15 times forward earnings is reasonable for what they're building. I take the politician buying seriously, not because I think they're doing God's work, but because the specific committees they sit on make them genuinely well informed about what the government is about to spend money on. But the chart still has sellers in it. The sell-off has been violent. And when I look at this stock right now, I see early signs of accumulation, some good volume on the up days, but I also see people who want out and haven't finished getting out yet. That matters for timing. I'd be looking for this to show a cleaner pattern, probably somewhere in the $100 to $120 range before I'm comfortable that institutional money is fully in control. That's where I'd want more confidence before sizing up a position. The broader lesson I want to leave you with is something I've come back to again and again over 4 decades of managing money. And it has almost nothing to do with ServiceNow specifically. Most people lose money in markets not because they pick bad companies, but because they buy and sell at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. They buy when the story is exciting and the stock is up, and they sell when the story is scary and the stock is down. They do this over and over again, and they can never figure out why they keep losing to a market that over time goes up. The answer is that they're buying other people's exits and selling into other people's entries. Wall Street figured out a discipline for this a long time ago, and they don't teach it to retail investors because there's no particular incentive to do so. The discipline is simple in concept and hard in practice. You define before you buy at what price you were wrong, and you honor that definition when you get there, not when the story is changed, not when the CEO gives a reassuring earnings call. When the stock tells you through price and volume that the people who knew something don't actually know it anymore. That's the exit. And on the other side, you don't buy on hope, you buy on evidence that the people who are right more often than you are starting to move in. ServiceNow has some of that evidence, not all of it. The honest answer is that this is early, which means higher potential reward and higher risk. You get to decide how much of each you want. But whatever you decide about this specific company, the discipline I'm describing, knowing your exit before your entry, buying evidence, not stories, that applies to every single position you'll ever take. Get that right, and the specific stock almost becomes secondary. I've been managing money long enough to have been spectacularly right and spectacularly wrong, sometimes about the same company. The difference between a long career and a short one in this business isn't brilliance. It's knowing when to hold your ground and when to get out of the way. ServiceNow is worth watching closely right now. Whether it's worth owning is a question only you can answer, with your own risk tolerance, your own timeline, and your own honest assessment of what you know and what you don't. That's all I've got for you today.